Hello, hello everybody, and welcome, a really warm welcome to lots of people who are joining us today for the first time who've never done a ThinkIn before. And obviously, if you're an old hand at this, you can have a snooze for the first 2 minutes while I explain how it's all going to work, because you know. My name is Liz Moseley. I'm an editor and partner at Tortoise Media, and the whole point of Tortoise is to be a different kind of newsroom. So we do journalism where the whole point of what we're here to do is listen and to work really, really hard to gather together experiences and perspectives of people who are outside what you might call the usual media bubble, if you like. And this series of Think-ins, which we call NextGen, is designed especially to be as welcoming and inclusive as we possibly can be to young people. So we've programmed a series of really interesting and impressive guest speakers. Our first one who's here with us today is Flo Simpson, to try and get, there she is, hello Flo, to try and get a sense of how young people are finding a way to make a difference in the world, to sort of share a bit of positivity, a bit of optimism, to try and get under the skin of a few issues that are affecting us. And the point of the thinking is, Joe and I will have a chat, but we really, really genuinely do want to hear from you. And there are a couple of ways that you can join in the conversation today. So it's not like a lecture or a webinar where you just get to sit back and listen. We want to hear what you want to think, and if you want to ask questions to Flo, you can do that, or just share your experiences. You can either talk to my colleague Annabelle, who is running the chat. So if you click down here, you can see, there's Annabelle, hello Annabelle. You can see the little chat function can open up, and you can type in there with questions and thoughts and ideas and responses if you agree or disagree with what Flo and I are chatting about. Or you can stick up your little blue digital hand. So if you click the thing that says participants, I think if you're on your phone, it's up there, but if you're on your laptop, it's down there. You'll see a list of everybody who's watching, and there should be a little blue button at the bottom that enables you to put your blue hand up. If some of the Tortoise people on here could demonstrate the putting up of the blue hand, that would be helpful. And then I'll look who's got their little blue hand up, and I'll come to you, and you can come on and we'll see you in your natural habitat, and you can chat and tell us what's on your mind. As I say, it is really important in a thinking that you do pitch in. I'm unscary, Flo is definitely unscary, so don't be shy. We're here to talk about all kinds of things. We want to talk about internet trolls, we want to talk about body positivity, we want to talk about food, we want to talk about the relationships we have with our bodies. So there's a lot in here that I think is important for us to share. And then when we've heard what you've got to say, we will pick out threads of it and try and feed it into the journalism that we then go on and produce and report on. So we're interested genuinely to know your experiences. So that's how it works. We will finish at 6, spot on the dot of 6. I hope you've got yourself a cup of tea or a gin, if that's the way you roll on a Thursday, and why wouldn't you? I'm going to start with Flo. Flo, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. I know you haven't done really stuff like this before. So you were saying before you were a little bit nervous, but there's nothing to be nervous about. It's lovely to have you. Flo and I aren't sitting in the same room, by the way. We have weirdly got the same background, but we're not sitting next to each other and pretending to be far away. You're in Portsmouth and I'm in London at the moment. I've got like a bazillion questions I want to ask you. Let's just start. How did this all start? Because it's a very recent thing in your life to find yourself suddenly really quite famous. Tell me what was all happening in May when you thought, there's my genes, I'm going to be famous.
I just come out of a relationship. I was just finishing university. I was like, right, I'm really unhappy with my body. I want to make a little change, but I don't want to make a big change. I don't want to jump from like a size 22 to a size 8 overnight. Not that I ever want to get down to a size 8. So I was like, maybe these jeans are a really good milestone, because there's something I used to wear before I was in that relationship. So I thought it'd be a really good way to get myself back down to that size.
So your first post, and that's what's quite fun about TikTok, is that it's really easy to see the journey, right? It's the story. Do you ever do that? Do you ever go back to the beginning and compare, like look back to where you were?
Sometimes it's really like, it's a really good way of like seeing your progress, being able to go back to my first video and thinking I do look different, but I also sound different. I do sound a lot happier, and I'm so much happier in myself. So it's a really good thing for me to have.
And do you were you a TikToker before you started were you using the platform? Were you kind of doing the dances and all that silly shit?
I wasn't doing the dancing. I was there, I was watching, but I was never posting videos. That first video on my profile is the first one I ever made and ever posted.
And what did you think was going to happen? Or did you not really think about it?
Didn't really think anything was going to happen. I thought it would just be a good way for me to like look back on my weight loss. I know a lot of people take to Instagram to do it. I follow quite a few weight loss accounts on Instagram, but I've not really seen a lot on TikTok like that. So I thought, why not? Let's just give it a go. And if someone wants to watch me, then they're more than welcome to.
And there's 1.6 million likes on that first post as of about 2 hours ago when I had a look at it. I mean, did it happen quickly? Or has that taken a long time to build?
No, it happened so quickly. I think within the first 3 days, it had like 250,000 views. I was literally mind blown.
That must have blown your mind. Did it feel weird?
So weird. I was like, why do people want to watch this? Like, I'm just a normal person. I'm just trying to get back into my jeans.
Was it at all frightening when it became so popular?
A little bit, because I was in like a really dark place at the time, and all of these people watching me and cheering me on, and it's absolutely mind-blowing but also terrifying that all these people are watching me.
Yeah. And so I think I found the most likes that is 7 million, I think, on one.
Views.
Yeah, oh, views. Sorry, views. Yeah. But on the one that you posted for VE Day, where you're talking about, we had a picnic, and we can all remember VE Day weirdly because we were all locked down, and then it was the first time that people sort of weirdly ventured out and stood far away from people. And you're like, oh, I had the smallest scone in the box. And there's something about, did you know when you posted that it was going to be huge? I mean, do you have a sense when you put stuff up of what's going to be a flyer and what isn't?
No, and I think that's kind of the good thing about TikTok, is that random things take off and random things don't. But I just put the same content out every day, and if people want to watch, they're more than welcome to. But I'm not ever going to make anyone watch it, but it's brilliant that they do.
And you over time, if I sort of put my before I worked for Tortoise, I worked in marketing for a long time, and if I put my sort of marketing hat on, there's a sort of sense of your persona evolving over time as you become a bit more confident with the platform, as you experiment with different types of content. Is that, I mean, it's all very organic and natural. I don't envisage you sort of sitting around with like a storyboard thinking, how am I going to adapt my voice? But it's very interesting seeing your confidence grow with your material.
Absolutely. I was so not confident in myself at the beginning, and I've grown so much, and it's mainly down to the fact that people are watching me and cheering me on. The messages I get just fill my heart with so much joy that so many people are rooting for me, and that I've inspired other people to do the same thing.
It does feel like a crew, it feels like a gang a bit, in a nice way.
Carry on.
No, you go.
I had some quite nasty comments at the beginning, but I think they've now left me, and they've realised that I don't care what they think, and I've got this really lovely community on TikTok now that I'm so happy to be in.
That is interesting. So I did a ThinkIn with Stephanie Yeboah earlier this week, who's somebody that people may know. She's a plus size blogger, and she I think she does call herself an influencer actually. Less on TikTok, more on Instagram. She has a YouTube channel and stuff. And she said that 70% of the interaction that she has from people on her content is negative, it's abusive, or it's trolling. So I'm fascinated that the trolls you've beaten them off. That's extraordinary.
I've not beaten them off entirely. There are still some comments, but I block them straight away. If you don't like my content, you don't have to watch it, and I'll make it so that you can't watch it, as horrible as that sounds. But I don't really care what other people think of me. I'm hairy, I'm plus size, that is just who I am. So if you don't like it, you don't have to watch my videos. And I think people have realised that it just doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So there's nothing in it for them. It's like when you're at school and they say the best way to handle the bullies is for it to not get to you. Show them it does not get to you.
Absolutely.
This is a genuine question, Flo, because there are people sort of commenting a bit in the chat about it, which is, to put yourself out there for something that's so personal as what you were trying to do. You know, I want to get back into my jeans, and like, as you say, you come out of your relationship, you were sad, you were lonely. It's a big risk for a lot of people that would feel like a step into the unknown in a frightening way. And you're sitting here now, you're and it comes out of the content too. You're so sort of sunny but normal, and you know, just like rock and roll, and you're very like, oh, I've had a disastrous day, I've eaten all the crap, tomorrow I'll get back on it. It's very relatable. But I do just wonder whether there are days when you just think, oh fuck, I just can't.
Definitely, all the time, especially at the minute. I've work and I'm about to start my masters and everything's getting on top of me, and I'm like, oh my god, I just can't do this. But I think it's really good to be like that, because I am just a normal person, and I think if I didn't show that I was a normal person, people probably wouldn't want to watch my videos.
Yeah, interesting. I can see Joe Lorenzo in the chat. I don't know if you're there, Joe, because you're wondering aloud again about, hi Joe, nice to see you. Put your question or your wondering aloud to Flo about pressure.
Yeah, I was just basically wondering about, so obviously you started this, just you wanted to do it, whether there's any like pressures to carry on posting and having to keep on posting and something like that.
I don't think there's a pressure to carry on posting. If I don't want to post on certain days, I definitely don't post, but it's almost a good kind of pressure, if that's the right kind of word to say, that all these people are waiting for my videos, so it's almost putting the pressure on me to eat healthy and to carry on this journey. So there is pressure, but it's not a bad kind, and if there was a bad kind, I just wouldn't post if I didn't want to.
There's a really interesting comment, and I might come to Megan in a sec, because I'm old, right? I'm probably the oldest person on this call by about 30 years. Maybe not 30 years, maybe 20 years. But there's a lot of, in other Tortoise Think-ins, we hear a lot of negativity about social media, more recently specifically about TikTok, actually. Less for the content and more for the sort of background tech, you know, the whole Chinese thing, you know, we talk a lot about it, and there is a definite vibe from a certain type of Tortoise member, which is, oh, social media dominates everything, it's bad for everyone's mental health, it makes us anxious, it makes us distracted, and yet what you're doing and your content is, it's jolly to watch. It made me feel nice, it made me smile, it didn't make me feel sad or worried. Do you feel, I suppose, any conflict ever in what you're doing, and not in knowing that you're handling material which is about body image, and that's sensitive, and some people can take it the wrong way, but also there's a responsibility, isn't there, to your people who are looking at and enjoying the stuff that you're making, that the positivity keeps coming and it doesn't veer into negative territory. I just wonder how you sort of figure that in your mind.
I do. If I have bad days, I do post them, but at the same time, if I need to step away, then I do. Sometimes I can go like 3 or 4 days without posting. I gave up social media for Lent this year, so like for the full 40 days, I deleted everything, even TikTok, which was quite hard for me. And I do have quite a young audience, and they are quite impressionable, and I would never want to put content out that would be harmful towards them. But at the same time, I don't have anything harmful to create. I'm just putting my life out there, and my life's as lovely. It's really lovely, and I'm very honoured to have such a lovely life.
Yeah, that's really nice. I'm going to go to Megan Kenyon next if I can, and then I really love what Amy Wilmot has said. So let's go to Megan and then to Amy if we can. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I just recently watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I don't know whether anyone's seen it.
I have.
But it really opened my eyes about the fact that social media is such a big part of our lives now, that actually we can't just be like, oh, let's just not use it and or cut it out of our lives, because we rely upon it so much. So what we can do is just reform it from within. And so I got rid of Instagram about 2 months ago, but then I recently got it back because I was like, you know what, I can use it in a positive way. So yeah, that was just my point. There's no point in being like, oh, it's so bad and we can't do anything about it, because we definitely can. So yeah.
That's really interesting. When you deleted your Instagram, when you deleted the app off your phone, essentially, in the 2 months that you were off of Instagram, did you feel better or not?
I felt better to an extent. I was kind of like, I'm not really thinking about, you know, what other people are doing, or like, you know, fashion and things like that, what people are wearing, and I'm so inadequate. But I did miss keeping in contact with my friends, because over lockdown, it's like I wasn't seeing any of them. And it's just a nice way of sort of seeing what your friends are up to and just connecting with them. So this time round, I'm only really following people that I'm quite close to, rather than people that I don't actually really know that well, but I met them once and I followed them on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just a better way for me to use it in a more positive way. So
yeah, interesting. And are you a TikTok user as well, Megan?
I'm actually not, but my sister is, and she often sends me TikToks and they're hilarious, but I'm just almost like too scared to get it, because I feel like I'll get addicted to it and then I'll be like, so maybe that's the next step, a positive TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like look over your sister's shoulder when she's obsessed with it, and then it only counts that it's her. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Megan. That's fab. Let's go to Amy if we can. Are you there, Amy? I think that's right. Yeah, Amy Wilmot. Let's see if we can find her.
Hi.
Hello, Amy.
Hello.
I can only hear you. I can't see you. Have you got you? Are you able to see your camera on? It doesn't matter if you don't want to.
I've got it on.
Oh, no, that's a different Amy. That's Amy Stewart. We were looking for Amy Wilmot. Hi, Amy Stewart. Meanwhile,
I've got it turned on. I don't know.
Okay, perfect. Amy is AIMEE Wilmot for Phoebe to find you. What's your? I love your comment. There you are, Amy. Hello. Nice to see you.
I love your clip.
Look similar to Flo. No, they look similar. I loved your comment. You're a Flo watcher, aren't you? A Flo fan.
Yeah, I am.
Hello.
Hello.
Your comment was about your relationship with Flo's content and how it's helped you, basically.
Yeah, I was just I basically lockdown, as terrible as it been for obvious reasons, it was a really important time for me, and like obviously we were all alone a lot, so I had a lot of time to like kind of check in on myself, and I realized that I was letting, like, I think this happens with a lot of plus size people, you just like allow yourself to be treated so terribly by people, and like you treat yourself badly because like, well, this is the case with me anyway, like I didn't think I was worthy of like even decency and respect, and then seeing people who look like me getting so much like love and support online really made me realize that I was like, oh, actually I am, you know, worth respect like everyone else is. And then it was a really nice journey with myself, learning to like appreciate myself and like not hide myself, but like flaunt it and like be proud. So that was, and it was literally just down to Flo and other body positive creators that I follow. And it was
fascinating, Amy, and I think you look fabulous, by the way.
You do.
You're I'm really interested in how you how do I say, like, curate your like feed so that you're seeing body positive contributors like Flo and others, and you're able to sort of make sure the algorithm doesn't take you to a dark place because it can identify what you're looking, you know, like, and tap into insecurities. Are you conscious of doing that? Is that like a deliberate thing that you do?
I am sometimes, especially when I first got TikTok, because you have to be like really careful what you engage with so they don't take your For You page somewhere completely different. So with TikTok in particular, I liked all the body positive stuff I saw, and then I would look up hashtags for like, because I just use TikTok for like body positive content. I don't use it for like memes or anything, just because I really needed a dose of like love for myself during the lockdown. So I follow, and I do like, I click like not interested on lots of stuff that isn't my vibe, just because I don't need it. Yeah. And TikTok pushes a lot of that stuff that's like stereotypically like what they want you to watch, and they push that. So I was trying to be like, no. I just followed lots of people that
That's I sometimes find myself being offended by the things that Instagram recommends it thinks I'll like, you know, and it advertises just really horrible old lady shoes or some really thing, and I'm like, who do you think I am? Ad is not relevant, and take my terrible events. Let's try, there's a person called Liv Olfin who's had their digital hand up in the list. Are you there, Liv Olfin? Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Flo, sort of, how did you find the confidence to start posting sort of less filtered and more like honest content? Because I feel such a big pressure on Instagram to like look good and like be the best version of myself. And like even today before I came on here, like I put a bit of makeup on. That is the difference for me that I'm trying to get over, like that confidence.
I feel like when I started in the first place, because I thought nobody was going to watch me, I didn't really mind what I looked like. But then people started interacting and they still didn't mind what I looked like. So I just carried on. But I've never been a massive one for makeup. And I think just starting to post, even if it's not every single time, being like your true natural self, just slowly working it into your Instagram posts. And people really don't mind. Like your best friends do not mind if you're wearing makeup or not. And as long as the people following you on your social media know you and love you, they're not going to really mind if your content changes. So just do what makes you happy.
Interesting. There's so many comments in the chat. I can't keep up with them, but I want to make sure we can go to as many people as we can. A comment by Kit Sinclair caught my eye, to do with kind of rules and age restrictions and things like that. Kit, are you there? Hello, Kit.
Hi, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because there's a whole lot of stuff kind of floating around recently about, I mean, I guess a bit of a heads up because it's to do with like eating disorders and stuff, but there was a lot of stuff going around about TikTok bringing in these new regulations that banned certain kinds of weight loss apps and like dieting pills and stuff advertising on TikTok, and they weren't allowed to advertise to younger viewers, like viewers under a certain age. So I just wondered, Flo, like if you had an opinion on that, like do they need to be doing more, or is it more a case of like encouraging people to follow kind of like positive content that you're making?
So I actually spoke to TikTok about this when they posted in the newsroom about it. I spoke to them about it. I definitely think it's a step in the right direction, because there are a lot of young people on the app, and there are also people my age and older who are suffering with things like eating disorders that don't need to be seeing weight loss and diet pills. So I do think they're definitely making a step in the right direction, but the same with all places, you need advertisement to keep it going. But I think it definitely depends on what you advertise. It shouldn't be on there, and I'm glad that they're making those steps, but with the algorithm, it's really hard to stop things coming up. So I do definitely think people need to use the not interested button a lot more. I've only recently started using it myself, and it just makes my feed a much more positive and happy place. So I think it's definitely something we can all start doing.
Do you the how to use it safely thing? I'm conscious I sound like a mum. I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old kid, and my son is absolutely not interested at all because he just plays Minecraft to the exclusion of everything else. But my daughter is into it and would like to use it more and likes the dances of fun and everything. Do you think that how to use something like TikTok safely is something that could be talked about more in school, or is it down to mum and dad? Because I struggle. Like I'm not sure how I can advise her how to use it safely, to be honest.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Like obviously you live with them, so you can monitor what they're watching, but it is kind of on the school as well. They do all this other like social media, like don't accept friend requests that you don't know. So they should do things surrounding TikTok and other social media platforms as well, and teaching them how to use their not interested button and blocking people and not watching content not suitable for them, although that is easier said than done. But yeah, there are definitely things to be done, but who does the finger point to?
Yeah, it's difficult to know where the buck stops, isn't it? With that kind of thing. Selena, so I do want to ask you, Flo, because you're trialing a new monetization thing on TikTok, which I'd really love to understand a bit about. But Selena Swift has made an interesting sort of observation about the relation. Oh, she's just come back in. It looks like she maybe left. Selena, if you're there, I would love to hear your observations about the difference between TikTok monetization and funding model and Instagram, and how that might affect the sort of positivity or negativity of the way the content sort of organizes itself. Are you there, Selena? I just noticed her name pop up and disappear, so it might be we have to come back to her. But while we try and find Selena, Flo, just explain to us, what is this new monetization thing that you're trying? Because they've picked a few of you, haven't they, to try it out or something?
Yeah, so it's rolled out to everybody now. So as long as you've got 10,000 followers and I believe 10,000 views and you're over the age of 18, you can join it. So the TikTok Creator Fund allows creators to be able to monetize their content. It's not masses of money, like I can't leave my job, but it's really helpful for me, like recipe videos and things like that. It then just allows me to be able to make a little bit more content and put a little bit more time into, like maybe taking one less shift at work a week so I can make more content. But it is a really good thing because the criteria is also really low.
And does that give you more sort of philosophically, what do you think that means for how a creator like you relates to the platform? I'm interested that you have obviously a direct, you know, a commercial relationship with TikTok themselves, that you ring them up and their work colleagues that you have, you know, a relationship with, whereas I sort of tend to think of TikTok and Instagram as these sort of shadowy organisations that an ordinary person like me would never, you know. But the direct dialogue is important, isn't it? And there must be a trust relationship there between you and them.
Definitely. And when they first emailed me, I was like, "Is this a scam? Why is TikTok? Someone's banging next door." But they're really, really friendly. They're lovely people, and they're so easy to talk to. And I think there's quite a big like grey area on TikTok, is like no one ever responds to my emails, but they do, and they're so lovely.
Yeah. Look, Emma Ferguson has asked the question that I asked you just before we started the ThinkIn. So Emma, I love this question about how does Jo feel about influencer as a job title. Emma Ferguson, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Emma.
Hi,
This
yeah.
is brilliant. This is a brilliant question. I loved it too, and I loved Flo's answer to it. So go for it.
Oh, sorry, I maybe wasn't in.
No, it was before we were just chatting before we started.
Oh, okay.
So let's definitely talk about it. I think it's interesting.
I was just really interested, Flo, in how you feel about having the term influencer attached to you as a job title. I think for me, it seems like quite a broad term that's often shared by a lot of people promoting very different things and ideals. And I just wonder if there's a different term you'd use or how you feel about it.
I don't like to call myself an influencer or celebrity or anything like that, because I still like to think I am a normal person. I still live at home. I still work. I still go to university. I still go to the pub with my friends. Like, I'm not an influencer. I'm a real normal person. But I do agree that influencer is a term that's bashed around a lot, and it's a very wide umbrella subject, but I don't really class myself as an influencer. Sorry.
It's funny, the sort of the word itself has definitely taken on a sort of meaning beyond its literal meaning, but you are influential. I mean, we heard from Amy in a really positive way the things that you have materially impacted how she feels about herself, and that's the dream scenario, right? It's a direct relationship, and Amy feels better, and you're sharing what you've learned. There's such a big responsibility, and it can blow up in your face. You know, these days the world is very unforgiving of, you know, you get something a bit wrong or you put your foot in your mouth, and everybody does stuff like that way sometimes. Are you a worrier? You don't seem like a worrier at all, but do you worry that you might, you know, come a cropper one day?
I am a massive worrier. I lay in bed at night and I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much going on. What about if it doesn't get finished? But I just put myself out. I am very real. And if I make mistakes, I will hold my hand up and I will apologise, and I will say, look, yeah, I've made this mistake. I am really sorry. Going forward to the future, I'm not going to do this again. So I think it's the only way you can do it, really, rather than being too scared to post it. And if you are wrong, you can apologise and you can move forwards from this. Obviously, as long as it's not like offensive or anything. Yeah. But I'm just myself.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting. I wonder if your generation are, and if so, this is a really positive and exciting development, because I think maybe people who are sort of 5 to 8 years older than you perhaps don't have that feeling of, if I get it wrong, I'll just apologise. I think there is a real fear maybe for people. Perhaps I don't know if the age thing is a red herring, but I feel, I'm a hell of a lot older, 8 years older than you, but I feel very worried every time I go to Twitter, even if I'm posting some brainless thing about saying, oh, I've made a cup of tea. I feel worried every time. I feel nervous of myself. So I think do you feel like that might be a generational thing, just because you've had this in your life forever, and not TikTok, but
absolutely. I feel like my generation is kind of the first generation that's grown up with social media. So like people like my mum's age, they are familiar with it, but not as familiar as I am. And I think sometimes they don't think that there's someone at the other end of the screen. Like, I read pretty much every single one of my comments, and I have to go through myself and delete and block the ones that call me horrible things. But it is normally people either with no picture or people a lot older than me. Not always the case, but I definitely do think it's kind of an older generational thing to potentially not understand it as much and not being as forgiving.
Yeah, that's interesting and really encouraging and nice to hear, if your experience is representative of what other people are experiencing. John Randall, you made a comment a while ago in the chat about people's journeys of sort of personal transformation. Hi, John.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, hi, John. Put your question to Flo.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing how people, I mean, obviously a lot of stuff gets said about Instagram, social media, how it can be bad for mental health, and there is that side of it. But also the positive side about how it can be a platform and a tool that people can use to express themselves and go on a bit of a journey of change. And it's interesting when you kind of scroll back in people's feeds, seeing where they started off to where they now are and how they can express their personality in different ways and give expression to things that they've been wanting to give expression to. So I'm just curious if that's been Flo's experience, whether it's been a useful tool to help you express yourself.
It definitely has, and I think everybody interacting, commenting on my videos and being so lovely has definitely helped me on my journey. And I'm also a really big believer of not following anyone on social media that doesn't bring you joy. I used to follow about 2,000 people on Instagram. I think I follow maybe like 800 now, which is still quite a lot, but I think it's definitely what you put into social media is what you get out of it. So if you follow people that make you really unhappy, obviously you're going to get unhappiness back from it. But TikTok has definitely helped me grow as a person, and I absolutely love it, and it's changed my life so much.
That's brilliant. Rakshit, I can see there's been a bit of a chat about people who are maybe not as confident as you are, Flo, in being able to say sorry. This whole thing about cancel culture. I wonder if Rakshit, are you there?
Yeah, I am. I think my camera's just turning on.
That's okay.
Hi.
Just talk to me a bit about this cancel culture thing, because that's definitely the source of my fear in this regard.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it come on quite a bit, and I don't think it's an age thing. I see it range from people who are 18, a lot older, like something bad, or someone will dig up something that they did maybe a few years ago, and automatically the internet's like, let's cancel them, let's cut them out, rather than giving them the opportunity to maybe grow from that experience. Or they'll pull up an experience that's maybe 10 years old and not who they are today, and suddenly believe it's not the people that we want giving us advice, and they don't want to hear from them anymore. So I just want to know what the thoughts were on the whole concept of cancel culture and how quick it is for people to just jump against you for something you might have done a very long time ago without listening or without getting the context for it and knowing who you are today.
Yeah, it's a good question. What do you think, Flo?
It is a very good question, and obviously I can't personally comment on it because it's never happened to me, but I do think people on social media are very quick to judge and not hear your side of the story, which is horrible, but because they don't, what I post on TikTok is probably about 10 minutes of my life every day. It's not a lot. And so I definitely think if people were willing to listen to your side of the story, it'd be a lot different, but it's just unfortunately something that's happened on social media. I'm not sure how we'd ever get past that. It's such a big thing now that we need to try and move past, but again, who do you point the finger to? How do you change that? It's such a massive thing.
It's something to do with, I think the solutions must be something to do with what you were saying before, Flo, which is if there can become, and it doesn't have to be age specific generation, but if we can all of us get to a stage where you're allowed to say sorry, you're allowed to say, I called it wrong, I judged it wrong, I didn't understand, or like you say, if you feel that you could get into something approaching nuance, we'd all be able to relax a bit more. But social media, Twitter particularly, just doesn't do nuance. You know, it's pick a team and have a fight. You know, that's the kind of vibe on Twitter. Do you tweet as well, Flo? I should know that. Are you a Twitter user or no?
Yeah, I've been a Twitter user for probably like 8 years now. I love it.
What do you use Twitter for? What is it in your life? What's your...
I don't know if anyone else agrees with this. I was kind of in the generation that moved from Facebook to Twitter. I really don't use Facebook anymore. It's just a way for me to kind of vent, really. It's kind of like my new Facebook. I never, ever, ever post Facebook statuses ever, but I literally tweet all the time. And it's a really good way for me to like interact with all my friends and follow celebrities and things like that. I just really enjoy it.
I committed the rookie error yesterday of checking my phone just before I went to sleep. And there was something on Twitter that made me worry, and consequently, then I couldn't go to sleep because I was agitated. Now I know not to do that, and yet there I did it. And I don't think there's ever anything on any of the other social media platforms. I'm like you. I don't tend to use Facebook so much anymore. That ever would make me feel worried. I wouldn't feel worried about anything I would discover on TikTok. I wouldn't feel worried about anything I discover on Instagram. But Twitter has the ability to kind of get in my head and plant those kinds of, is that going to blow up at work, you know? Anyway, that was just a little bit of a moan from me there. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. I was going to go to, now there was Matthew Boyle has made an interesting observation and a question. Are you there, Matthew? Hello, Matthew.
Hi, yeah.
Matt.
Sorry, I have to be a bit quiet because I'm in the library.
Matthew's in the library.
Yeah, I was just interested in if there's been sort of a disagreement between people that would follow you. Like it could be said that there could be two groups of people that might follow you. Some who are very into like body positivity and love the skin you're in at this exact moment, and some people who also want to like lose some weight and look good in that way. And have you ever found that there's like some differences that between these groups, or do you think there's a big overlap, or how do you think that sort of works?
It's a really good question, actually, and I do obviously get both of those kind of people that follow me, but I think I've got a really lovely community on TikTok, and I think there is quite a massive overlap. Like, you can love yourself and still want to make positive changes in your life. Like, I absolutely love myself, not in a big-headed way, I promise, but I still want to lose a little bit of weight because that's just going to make me just that little bit happier. It's not to do with numbers or anything. I just want to get back into my jeans. But yeah, there is definitely two parts of TikTok, but I think you can do both simultaneously.
Thanks so much. I'm going to go to Tanishq, please, you've had your hand up for a little while. Sorry, I was being gormless and distracted by the chat, but I spied you with your hand up. You've made a few comments in the chat, Tanishq. What's your main vibe this today? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so one thing that I did want to ask Flo about is just going on about cancel culture and everything, that the discussion we've had. So as your following grows, do you kind of feel like the need to censor yourself almost because you don't want to say anything that you might alienate some of your community?
Not really, no. I think I just put all of myself out there. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm never, ever, ever going to force anybody to watch my content. If you don't like what I'm posting, I am really sorry, but this is just me. So yeah, there is cancel culture, and it may happen to me one day if you don't like what I'm posting, but it's not something I've received or experienced myself at the minute.
Let's go to Betty Dalton, who's made a few comments actually. Betty, are you there? Are you okay to come on? Hi. I'm interested in your there was a thing you said earlier on that caught my eye. I made a note of about sometimes what feels and is intended to be inspiring can end up making you feel worse. And then latterly you were talking about wondering about how Flo is feeling about other people who are inspired. Just you can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, so when kind of it was all kicking off and Flo was trying to fit into her jeans, because I was liking all the videos, my feed was often like, you know, trying to fit back into my jeans or trying to fit into this dress, and you go to the comments to see how people are reacting, and it's often very negative because they were almost offended that they were inspired and trying to be on the same journey. And I was just wondering how that made Flo feel.
Yeah, I did see a lot of this when it first started happening. People are commenting on people's videos saying, you're copying Flo, you're copying Flo. And I did address it in one of my videos once. I am so happy that I've inspired people to embark on a journey to love themselves and make little positive changes in their life. And it really, really upset me when people were like, you're copying Flo, you shouldn't be doing this. You don't need to give me credit. I'm not the first person to try and lose weight or get back into their jeans. But we just need to be positive. I do nothing but spread positivity on TikTok. I just want to make everybody happy. And it just really upset me when that happened. But it has started dying down now. But if I do see it, I always try and comment and be like, oh, I'm not offended. I'm really happy that I've helped you embark on this journey.
I'm going to go to my colleague Harika now, if I can. Are you there, Harika?
Yes, I am. I just had more of a comment / compliment, I guess, for Flo. I was thinking about Instagram accounts and the content that I follow. And I think one really cool thing that you do is talking about body hair, because that's something that I guess is talked about in the context of like feminism and not shaving your underarms and things like that. But in terms of actually having body hair and feeling like you have too much, or just the whole kind of stigma that there is around it, isn't something that I've really seen much on social media. So I was just wondering like what the reaction was when you started posting about that kind of content. Was there like more backlash, or did you find that more difficult than talking about, say, losing weight to fit into your jeans?
It really shocks me at first that people were so annoyed by my body hair. Like, I am a very hairy person. I don't know if the camera picks it up. I have been my entire life. I was born with a full head of hair and will probably die with one too. It's my body, and what I do with it is nobody else's. Like, it's your opinion on my body, but I don't really care what you think of my body. So I think the fact that I was so positive about it, I was like, yeah, this is my body, this is what I look like, and I absolutely love it. It made the people that didn't like that go away, but the people that were then like, yeah, I've got a hairy body and I actually love it. I get messages all the time, and they're like, thank you so much, you've helped me like love my hair. And it just fills me with so much joy that people are accepting who they are because of me.
It's amazing. It's extraordinary. Speaking as a 44-year-old, I keep talking about my age, don't I? I'm obsessed with it. I'm a 44-year-old woman who's very far from body acceptance. I think Libby Ross has got, I love, Ellie House is making some really important points. We'll come to you, Ellie. Liv Olphin is making some really important points. And let's go to Ellie House first, shall we? You've made a good comment about BMI and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that whenever I talk about body positivity to people of older generations, they often say, oh, I it's not about how you look, it's about your health. And I think one of the things that younger people kind of understand more is that BMI doesn't actually mean anything, and like health doesn't necessarily equate to weight. So I was just wondering how Flo sort of how you deal with that sort of issue, and also how you encourage people to love their bodies while also making healthy decisions, but also not trying to sort of slim down in an unhealthy way. Like, how do you sort of balance these issues?
Yeah, it's quite crazy when you put it in that kind of context. But yeah, BMI doesn't really mean anything. It was made a very long time ago, and people have changed since then. We've evolved. But I think as long as you are healthy and you are happy, why does it matter? Obviously, if it was having really detrimental effects on your health, maybe we need to start making tiny changes, which is what I did. Not that it was detrimental, but it's definitely people of an older generation that seem to have an issue with it. And definitely some of this generation, but typically the older one. But I just think that how I am physically and internally is nobody else's business.
I think there's definitely it's very sort of burdensome cultural dialogue around people who are bigger, and especially in relation to things like there's a sort of judgmental element, because it's sort of if you're big, you're somehow irresponsible, or there's sort of feeling that there's a blaming element of it, and then people talk about funding of the health service and all of that kind of thing. And I think there's a really challenging and quite complicated thing to crack open there, that is tough when you're someone like Flo or like Amy or like any of us who feel uncomfortable in our bodies to begin with, and you're trying to kind of make sense of what you shouldn't be. Also, I learnt this week that the original calculations for BMI were only done on a man's body. So that's kind of a bit of a problem. Let's go to Libby Ross, because I've never heard this thing, body neutrality versus body positivity, and that feels relevant to talk about at the moment. Hi, Libby.
Hi, I hadn't heard about it before, but one of my friends mentioned it to me, and it was kind of the idea of learning to accept yourself rather than feeling that pressure to always love yourself. So I just thought it was quite an interesting kind of comparison. I just wondered what Flo thought about that.
Well, like yourself, I've also never heard of it, but it's definitely, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to love yourself all the time. Sometimes I don't love myself. I look at myself and I'm like, oh my God, I just want to put my biggest jumper on and go and sit on the sofa and not look at myself in the mirror. But you can't be happy 100% of the time, and I'm very honest about that on my TikToks. I think learning to just like yourself is amazing. Like, as long as you don't look at yourself every single day and think, oh my God, I hate myself, because we shouldn't hate ourselves. You can't change what you look like overnight, so why would you hate it?
Yeah, because I've been watching your TikTok since the beginning, and I liked that you do share when you have like ups and downs, because I think that's very realistic. Like, you're not always you don't always look in the mirror every day and think, oh, I look amazing. Like, some days you do, and some days you just have a down day, like you said, and just want to wear a big jumper. So I just thought the idea of like neutrality and kind of acceptance rather than feeling that pressure to always like love yourself was quite interesting.
Absolutely, yeah, I do agree with you there.
Thanks, Libby. That's a good it's a good question, and I like this notion of body kind of neutrality. Let's go to Liv now. Liv Olphin, if we can find you. Are you there, Liv? Hello. Let's go back to you. Oh, I've seen you already. I love the thing that you said about wondering if Flo gets exhausted keeping everybody else positive. There is something in that self-care element, isn't there, to influencers like Flo is?
Like, I can imagine that you say you read all your comments and you're really involved with like your followers, but also, you know, people are going through things and they'll be talking to you in your comments about things they're going through, and you're trying to keep them positive. Like, how do you make sure that you don't take that home at night and you don't think about that?
That's a really good question. It's just, it doesn't really get me down. It may do at some point, but if it gets on top of me, or if I'm not feeling great and everything's really stressed me out, I just come off of social media for a couple of days. Like, if I don't want to post on TikTok for 3 days, then I don't. But I also have a really, really lovely community on TikTok. And if people are posting in my comments and they're like, I'm feeling really down, my mum's called me fat, I feel like I need to lose weight, there's always other people in my comments telling these other people, like giving them tips, telling them that they're beautiful, things like that. So it's not just me, it's everybody in my community that's helping everybody else. And I just absolutely love what I've created on TikTok.
Thanks, Flo. And it's good to know that you feel at the moment that you can sense where the boundary is, because one of the challenges as your career as a, I don't want to say influencer, content, whatever, as it grows, and I don't know, do you think of it that it could become a career and you can bin off the other stuff that you do, or not? Or you're not sure?
Maybe one day, but I want to do my master's because it's something that I've wanted to do for such a long time. Not my master's, the career after my master's.
What's your master's in? What are you going to study?
Law and corporate governance.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I want to do that because the job that I want to do afterwards, company secretary, is something that I've wanted to do for so many years. So I wouldn't sack that off just to do TikTok. I love TikTok, and if I could ever pursue it full time, then I definitely would. Or if I could leave my part-time job while I was at uni just to focus on TikTok, then that would be brilliant, because it's just a lot of pressure off my shoulders. But I am managing to balance everything at the minute, so we're good at the minute.
How does your family feel about your TikTok fame?
So my dad doesn't use social media. He's got nothing other than WhatsApp, so he doesn't really care. My mum thinks it's brilliant. She loves it. And my brother and sister, they do like it. But when we're out in public, if people stop me and they're like, hi, can we have a picture? They just keep walking. They're like, Flo, this is so embarrassing. Like, we're meeting you in
Oh my God. Are your brother and sister big or little?
so my brother's 17. He's actually next door. You can probably hear him shouting. And my sister, she's 19, but she's in Ormskirk at university, so she's not at home.
Okay. Interesting. So there's no tension in the Simpson household over you being the famous one. Interesting. I mean, I think I'm completely fascinated that you want to be a company secretary, because that's a job that a lot of people don't even know exists. Why do you want to be a company secretary?
I don't really know. I've wanted to do law since I was probably about 16. I took it at college, and then I went to university, and I always knew that it's kind of the route I wanted to go down. And then you start talking to people and you're networking, and it really interests me, and I don't really know why, but it's something I want to pursue. So I'm going to do my masters, get my qualifications, and hopefully that's the job I get.
Let's look. I'm loving that. Kit, Harika, and Liv are all just put rapid fire in the chat. What's a company secretary? I've just had to Google company secretary. Explain to everybody what it is.
It's kind of, you like work in the top of a company. You tell them how to run in compliance with the law, make sure they're doing everything okay, kind of things like that. And like business law and things like that. So all the interesting stuff.
They were really, I used to, before I worked here, we're a startup, we don't have anything as fancy as a company secretary, but before that I had like a job in a big, in a PLC, and the woman who was the company secretary there was she was really cool, she looked amazing, really clever, but she was quietly the most powerful person in the company, because it was all about, are we operating in a sort of legal way, are we ticking all the right boxes, and she would have to go to the CEO and kind of go, you can't do that. It was interesting. Amy Stewart is making some comments, slightly changing the vibe a little bit, and I can see Caitlin Sloman's got your hand up, and we've only got 6 minutes left. My God, the time has literally flown. But let's try and fit in at least Amy Stewart and Caitlin, if we can, before we say goodbye, because Amy, you're making comments about kind of going back to the thing about body unconfidence, if you like, and when negative comments about your appearance come not out of your phone but through your ears from people who are close to you. Just talk a little bit about your experiences and what you're mentioning here.
Yeah, I come from a family that's very opinionated about other people's bodies, so it's definitely filtered to me and how I see my body and how I see the world. And I just thought it was really interesting what you were saying about how if you're getting negative comments on social media, it's so easy just to be like, get rid of that, don't want that in my life. But when it's coming from family, it's so hard because you have to see them constantly. And if they make a negative comment, you can't just sort of delete that. You sort of have to take it, and you can't argue back. It's just like really awkward. I just wondered how you would navigate that, because it's something that I haven't been able to navigate very well.
There's no not interested button for your mum, is there? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I have experienced some of it myself. My grandparents, my mum, even at one point, without even knowing it. Like sometimes I walk downstairs and she'd be like, "Your hair's greasy." I know it's greasy, mum. You don't need to point it out. Sometimes you don't have the confidence in the moment to say, "I don't like that. Don't say that to me." Sometimes you do, and if you can, education starts at home. You can say to your parents, your family, you shouldn't actually address it like that. Maybe you could say it in this way. Do you need to say that? It's quite harmful. But also maybe messaging them later. I've done that a few times to my grandparents. I think it's just a generational thing that sometimes they have no filter. I was like, I didn't actually appreciate what you said. Is there any way we can not speak about that in the future? Could you say it differently? Was there any need to say it in front of everybody? It's definitely, you've got to figure that like equilibrium, is that the right word? Like you've got to figure out what works for you and your family. You've got to find that balance, because it is hard when you have to see them all the time, but at the same time you shouldn't be subject to that kind of torment, maybe, if that's the word.
It's tough because you will have internalized it, Amy, won't you? If it's been in your family and like that's the culture in the Amy's house or whatever, you internalize that, and then it actually is, it sort of skews what you expect is normal. You know, that in your house other people come around and people like, they talk to each other like this, say what, but you don't notice that it's weird, right? Because that's how you've internalized. I suppose in your situation, if it's becoming problematic for you, then the more you can find communities of positive influence wherever they may be, you know, IRL friends, online or whatever, they are the people who are going to help to remind you that those, you know, how things operate in your house are, or in your family are, they're not like that everywhere, kind of thing. Let's go to, we've got 3 minutes left. So Caitlin, I promised we would come to you, Caitlin Sloman, with your little blue hand in the air.
Hello.
Making this the last one, make it a goodie.
Oh.
No pressure.
Oh, you froze for a second then, it's okay now. Yeah, just coming off that point, where I suppose as a teenager was a little bit more insecure about weight is when people who I perceived to look like me were openly so insecure about themselves. Like, I know what I struggled with is as I grew up, I became the body type that my mum is, and I'd seen her sort of yo-yo dieting through my whole childhood. You mentioned that you post when you have sort of bad self-esteem days. And I was just wondering how you toe this line between acknowledging that we don't always have to love ourselves and we will have bad days, and trying to, I guess, not make younger people in particular think, ooh, should I be self-conscious too if they have the same body type?
I think people on social media that pretend that they are happy and they are okay every single day, not live miserable lives, but probably are lying to themselves a little bit. And I do have a very young audience, and I don't think it would be fair for me to post every day going, oh yeah, I look amazing, this is amazing, because it doesn't work like that. Learning to love yourself, I'm still on that journey. It's a very long road, and like you said, I have turned into my mum. Like, we have the same body type, I even look like her and sound like her. So it's a very slow journey. You've got to start somewhere, but it's not going to happen overnight, is it? Unfortunately.
I mean, there's a lot of people nodding from the thing of, my mum's body became my body, and then my voice, and then my face, and then just like a sort of inexorable merging of the two things. It's 1 minute to 6. I can't believe it, honestly. I have to say, I have done a lot of these digital think-ins. I'm honestly a lot. And this has been the chattiest, most vibrant, smart, interesting comments. I want to lift all of you and plonk you in all the think-ins that I ever do in the future, because you've made my job super, super easy. You've really brought it. I've loved having Flo with us. You sort of, I feel like I've been given an injection of real sort of oomph to go and tackle the rest of the day. So thank you so, so much for your time. It's been really, really interesting what Flo's had to say, what everybody's had to say. Thanks so much to Annabelle, who's done an absolute sterling job in a very quick fire chat. She's had to be on her game, and to all the crew at Tortoise who kind of put this together today. These NextGen series of think-ins carry on. The next one is on the 29th of October, when we're going to be joined by Alex Holmes, who some of you may know about. He's a really badass anti-bullying activist and has achieved some extraordinary things already in that space. So elements of overlap for some of the things we've been talking about today. All of these think-ins are free. Please come, bring your friends. Super easy to sign up. And if you're a student, you can obviously join Tortoise for free and come to all the things that we do if you fancy them. We talk about everything. Important, silly, and everything in between. It's been really, really, really good. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely rest of the evening. And of course, thank you very much to Flo. It's been a real pleasure. We can't really clap. If we were all together, we would all go and have like warm wine and crisps now, but we can't do that. So we just have to say goodbye. So have a lovely rest of the evening. Thank you very much, everybody. Ta-ta!
Enchanté.